I think we're good to go. Chris, you want to put up the colors? Here we go. Would everyone join me in pledging allegiance to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you very much. You have tuned into the April 27th meeting of the Town of Canandaigua Planning Board. I will take a roll call first. Gary Humes.
I'm here.
Bob LaCourse.
I'm here.
Amanda Van Laken.
I'm here.
And Ryan Stachak has been excused this evening. We are also joined by our Secretary, John Rubatella.
Yep, here.
We have Lance Brabant representing our town engineers, MRB. We have Christian Nadler, our planning board attorney.
Good evening.
And at the controls, as usual, is Chris Jensen, our code enforcement officer.
Hello.
Okay, let me first, if you have not attended any of our meetings, it's not too much different from what the other Zoom meetings involved as far as participation. We have a number of applications to review tonight, so we will pull up each application individually. I will ask a representative of the applicant to make a presentation. Once that applicant has made his or her presentation, then we would go to the board, the planning board, for questions, comments, concerns. Once those have been issued and given, then I will go to the general public for any information or questions that they wish to enter onto the record and ask the board. And then I'll go back to the applicant to see if there's any responses that he or she may have. And then we will take a vote. We will consider both the seeker application with most applications, as well as whether it's a subdivision or site plan review. If you do intend to participate and you're in the general public, please acknowledge that you would like to speak by raising your hand or somehow getting our attention. Jump up and down on your chair, whatever it takes, and you will be recognized. We ask that you give us your name and address, and also your name and address, and then you can make your comments. So all that being said, let's move on. We have two public hearings tonight, both of which have been advertised in the Daily Messenger on April 20th. And so that's duly noted for the record. Before we move to the public hearings, I would first like to ask if there is anyone in the general public who would like to speak to the board regarding an issue that is not on our agenda for this evening. If you have something you'd like to bring to our attention, now's the time to do so under the privilege of the floor. So I will ask for anyone who wants to speak. So I'm assuming there is no one. So that being the case, we'll move on to our first public hearing, which is CPN 20-058, a Venezia Group owners of property, Fox Ridge Section 5B3, who is requesting an amended final subdivision approval, and also subsequent to that approval, a request to do advanced site work. I will now open the hearing. I see Rocco is right up front. So Rocco, it's not that we don't know about this application, but you can give us the latest.
So have you guys ever seen anything from Fox Ridge, or is that?
No, how do you spell it? F-O-X-E or just F-O? No, we're very familiar with it, Rocco.
Okay.
Like we
So
said, remember, hopefully this is going to be the end of it all.
you're right. That's what I was just going to took the words right out of my mouth. Hopefully this is the end of it all. So we presented this project back in August or September, and you approved it in October. It was 12 lots. The cul-de-sac came in a little deeper and curled around over the top of the city easement. By the way, my daughter, the engineers, is in the Zoom meeting. If we have any questions, she can jump in. But the city kind of raised some issues, and the sewer department raised some issues, and it became apparent that we needed to revise the location of the cul-de-sac. So we pulled it back, made it shorter. We lost a lot in so doing that, but whatever, it ended up working out for us. So having said all that, we're back in front of you guys to get this new alignment reapproved. Everything stayed the same except, of course, the alignment. The number of lots shrank by one. The amount of work shrank a little bit, less sewer, less water, less disturbance. So having said that, we also would like to at the same time ask for your permission to start moving some dirt while we're, pursuing the signatures. We do have a letter of credit in place that's been in place since, the beginning of the year that the town board approved, and they're actually holding a $300,000 check. So everything's in place if you guys decide to move forward and grant us the approval and the subsequent approval to do some advanced site work. So that's pretty much the overall. If you got any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Okay, let's sort of break it down to the amended final plan, and then seeing how that goes, we'll consider the advanced site preparation as a separate action.
Okay.
I guess I want to ask the board, the first question we have to ask in cases like this, do you feel that this plan as submitted is in substantial compliance with the preliminary plan that was approved? If we feel there's anything contrary to compliance, then we have to consider an amended preliminary plan. But if we feel that it's in compliance with the preliminary approval, then we can move forward with the final plan. Is the board of the opinion that this is in compliance with the approved preliminary plan?
This is Bob. I would consider it in compliance with.
And this is Amanda. I agree.
And I'll make that 3.
Yeah.
I also agree. I think it's pretty consistent. It's actually simpler, I think, now than it was before by moving that cul-de-sac back. So, I'm pretty much in agreement.
Okay, well, then we're over that step. So the next step would be, I know that Chris and Lance and Jim Fletcher had some issues regarding both this section and previous sections in terms of these dedication of the street.
Mhm.
And Chris, Lance, can you give us an update as to where we stand on those before we move forward on this?
I'm gonna leave this one up to Lance. Everything as far as stormwater's been addressed as far as the other sections and stuff. The roadway is Jim, and Lance can speak to the other stuff.
Lance, would you give us
Lance,
a
you're
brief?
on mute.
Lance, he doesn't do enough of these Zoom meetings. Lance, you might have to call in like you do.
There you go. No, I have called in, but then I forget I have to type in the number. Unmute me. I can't just hit the unmute button.
You gotta get
Can you
yourself
guys
an
hear me right now?
engineer. Gotta get yourself. All right, could you give us a little bit of background where we stand as far as the
Yeah.
conditions of approval on the previous sections and what needs to be done before we move forward on this section?
Sure. The original approval of 565B3, one of the conditions was dedication of 5B2, which is the adjoining section to this section, Lacrosse Circle. And so that was a condition of the previous approval, and it was agreed on that would be done. Fast forward to now, the applicant has been, modifying these plans. And Jim actually wanted to have a freeze thaw necessary go over the road prior to dedication, which has since expired. And so now what we're suggesting, what we've been working with Rockland, and he's been very quick to respond back to us. We're essentially asking for the dedication to take place now, which is part of that process is a record drawing of 5B2, which was submitted to us last Friday. We're reviewing now with the town. GIS information has also been provided to us, which we are reviewing with the town. It includes a need for an inspection, which has been done by the town previously. Dedication paperwork, which has been submitted to the town as of today, including the inspection report and a letter by MRB Group summarizing the process. It also includes a maintenance bond requirement, which Rocco did submit an estimate. I told him that MRB would review it and provide a response back, which I did as of today. Identify what the maintenance bond is, and basically, in summary, it's for all items to be dedicated to town. In this case, roadways, not including the top coat, storm sewer, and water main infrastructure. So that information has been bonded up and provided to the town as part of the process, and then the town will have that verification over that period. So that's the summary of what is needed for the dedication, which is now included as a condition for your consideration as part of Fox Ridge 5B3. Being that they did submit this information to us in our processing, we're hoping the town's in a position to dedicate it sometime in May.
Okay. You're
Mr. Chairman, I did receive dedication paperwork, the legal paperwork from Rocco's attorney, Mr. Don Cheney, this morning. I haven't had a chance to review it, but I'm sure Mr. Cheney and I will be able to work out the details if there's any issues.
Okay, so it sounds like we're all caught up. Lance, you're really breaking up. I don't know if you want to hang up and call back in if it's a bad connection on the phone, but we got most of what you were saying. It sounds like, as I said, everything is copacetic.
Either that or Lance, just make sure you don't have two microphones on. That's all it is.
If you have your laptop.
Yeah. I'll definitely check in. Thank you.
Okay, so it sounds like we're ready to move forward. Anyone from the board have any further concerns, questions? We agree it's in compliance with the preliminary plan. Any specific concerns on the design, the layout that you'd like to bring to our attention?
Hey, Rocco, this is Bob. Just two questions there. Lot 11. It seems like I was out there today, and that seems it's a few feet higher than the southern house that's already there. How are you going to ensure that that doesn't wash down into lot 33 there?
Well, there's swales that take, so if you look at the way the plan is, there's swales that carry the water to the south. And then there's a little bit of a swale on the north, but typically 95% of this water is heading back south away from that house.
It's higher on the visually seeing that out there looking
No,
at
it's
it.
higher, but if you look at where the house is, the elevation 913, if you look at those contours south of the house, those contours take you down into the drainage that was left.
Okay, that was my
Yeah.
one question. And the other one was trees. Are you going to put any landscaping in here?
Yeah, there's trees on the one plan.
That's what I was trying to figure out. One went from 8 to 4. That's what I was wondering.
Well, we had a hard time fitting them in because we didn't want to put them in the road right away. So
Yep.
we didn't have a lot of room to fit them in, but
Okay, those are my two questions. Thanks, Rocco.
yep.
And we got the sidewalk reservation. We've got the street lights. Just going back over things that we talked about before. They're still on the plan. Yeah, that lot 11, it's an awkward lot. I mean, it's going to be tough to market that. You're looking at the backyards of all the other houses, and but that's up to the builder. Rocco, can you assure us that the elevations, first floor elevations shown on the plan are going to be they're going to be built at, that the builder will hold us to that?
Well, the builder actually is on board with us, so he had a lot of input in the grading plan. So yeah, I believe we can do it.
Okay, you know where I'm coming from.
Well, we got a couple things on the agenda that are kind of pointing in that direction, so.
Well, let's address it now. What are we gonna do? And I understand when you're selling a house, a homeowner says, oh, I want this. And that means the elevation's gonna change. But elevations can change, that's okay. But what are we gonna do during the construction process so that the subsequent applications that we're about to hear don't happen in this situation? Who has a good idea of that?
I have a good idea. I have a good idea on that.
Yeah,
So once the concrete block is up, we can submit to Chris the elevation of that. And then then he'll know that a foot's gonna go on top of that. And so we can require that we do before we start framing that, we do an elevation check.
I think that's a great idea for a condition of approval, Lance.
The thing is before we issue a building permit, they give us individual lot plans. Because right now, each lot shows this generic footprint of a home. Before we issue a building permit, every time they submit a lot plan just for that individual lot, the footprint of that building showing the grading and stuff. And at that time, all the ways in the past, it said the finished floor is the finished floor based on the subdivision approvals. So if they get them right now, if they change them, yeah, they'll have to go back or something, because this is what's fixed.
Well, I think what Rocco's committing to is he will provide the as-built first floor elevation, or at least to the top of the foundation, so that we know at that point and not wait till the house is built and sometimes, some cases occupied, before we find out that the elevation is not in compliance with the plan. So
So Chuck, will we request them to do an amended site plan for that lot then and have them hold, or what?
that's what we're doing tonight on 4 applications for Lake Breeze and La Crosse Circle.
Right, but those are built already. So what you're saying is Rocco's gonna say,
Oh,
let's,
okay.
here's
If
the
it's-
thing, but it's higher now. What are we gonna do then?
We were doing an amended site plan approval, and we can work out a way so that it doesn't delay the construction process. But, maybe just so the planning board's hearing it before the house gets built, because, we've got 4 applications coming up that, if we can't solve the drainage problems, eventually the planning board is gonna have to say, well, you need to tear this house down. That's nobody likes to do that. It's not a fair position to put the planning board in. So if we can do it at before the house even is built, well, then Rocco can make the fixes he needs to make, or we can figure something out.
Well, to
That's-
answer your question, Bob, yes, the builder would have to come back, the applicant would have to come back for a change at that point. But it's much better to do it then
Right,
than do it once the house is built, it's occupied. You've got the neighbors all concerned because they're looking at a house that's going to change grade. It's different than it should have been. It's much easier to do it at the foundation.
yep, totally agree. I just want to make sure part of the record is that if it is higher, we stop until we come to an agreement and then continue.
I think we should get John involved. Builder.
John is waving his hand.
Hi, everybody. I'm John Graziosi with Gerber Homes. And yeah, so moving forward, we obviously want to be on the same page, and we apologize that we've been, through where we've been so far, and there's been some, circumstances that have affected that. We have reviewed and helped set the elevations with Rocco on this plan. And the one request, or I think solution to the problem, Rocco's idea of shooting the elevation when the foundation is good, that's fine. But I think the other option, I think that, I'm not sure if the town's considered this yet, but several of the other towns that we work with do it this way, is when we provide the plot plan, like Chris was mentioning, with the, the actual footprint of the house, we can look at the grade that's been engineered on the site plan, and we can provide a site plan that either matches that grade or is a slight variation if needed. And that's something that can be reviewed by the planning department or the town engineer and determine if there's any potential issues with that. And so we would have sort of pre-approval to adjust it a little bit ahead of time before we start the house. And then the double check would be, we look at the foundation once it's in. But I think, there are some cases where something might need to be revised due to the footprint of the house or due to something that's, that's a field condition isn't exactly the way it was, drawn on the plan. So I think if there's a sort of process when we apply for the permit, that we provide that plot plan with an elevation on it, and then it can be reviewed by whoever needs to review it and make that determination possibly.
Yeah, that was my suggestion, that if there's going to be a modification, extra courses or block and stuff like that, that we address it during the building permit process, because at that time, they know what the approved one is, they know what they're shooting for, and then I won't even advance it to building permit until we get approvals and stuff. Because, I mean, it's not just Gerber by any means. I believe in the next month, Greer from Morel Builders is going to be making application to 15 or 16 townhomes that were built 2 or 3 feet different in elevation than what was approved.
Well, so I like this idea that John and Chris Jensen just put forward. But John, if you got to change a foundation level, it's going to delay the heck out of starting construction. If you have to get it done, you have to get approval before Chris Jensen issues you a building permit.
Right, and what we've had happen in a couple of the other towns, and I think it happens, it works that way in Victor. If we send in a plot plan that has any kind of revision to it based on, sometimes we're doing a handicap accessible, which we have one with you now where we have to raise the garage floor, so there's no, and if they're going with a deeper basement. So sometimes there's conditions that change, before we build the house. If we can submit that with the building application, and in other towns, either the building inspector looks at it and says that, it's really, a couple inches, it doesn't make a difference, or the town engineer looks it over and sort of looks at it and makes a determination that it is a significant change or it is not a significant change. If it is a significant change and there's concerns, then it gets escalated to a planning board level. But if it's something that just makes logical sense due to the deeper basement, due to a walkout, or due to the garage floor, or just, a little conflict in site conditions, that it can be adjusted and approved ahead of time, not after the fact, because, that's obviously the problem with later.
Yeah, that's okay with me.
Because that's the issue that we've been running into, is that they'll give me a plot plan and it does match the original approved subdivision plan, so I'll issue it. If it doesn't match, I wouldn't have issued the permits in the first place. So as long as we can address it from the beginning, it'll work out fine.
I'm good with that.
Okay.
Yeah, I am. What's the current, isn't there a tolerance right now, kind of on the site plan right now? It's plus or minus
1 foot,
a foot or something like that?
1 foot.
Okay. So
So
I think
it's more-
that's good. And if Chris sees something on the individual plot for our, the design for that one plot, then it's over a foot or the tolerance is greater than 1 foot. I think between he and the engineer, they can make a determination whether that's something that needs to be accelerated or brought up to our level, or they can approve it at that level.
Okay, very good. John, hopefully you got all the discussion on the record in the minutes. Lance, it sounds like we have a condition to add to the forthcoming resolution regarding the first 4 elevations. Anything else? Just going through my notes, the county planning board did not comment on this. They had no formal comments. It appears that the county sewer district and the city of Canandaigua have given it their blessings. That DOH letter that popped up probably about a month or so ago between Lance and Rocco, has that been for the most part resolved with the DOH? Somebody's muted.
Can you hear me now?
Rocco,
Rocco, where do you stand with DOH or Aaron?
I'm sorry, I was muted. So we resubmitted it to the DOH and we've addressed the issues. Aaron's written a letter, a response letter. So, and that's a question I have for Chris. Can I make copies and get them to the Department of Health and the Sewer Department tomorrow? I know you want to do it yourself, but can I get back to them with hard copies?
as long as the copies we're reviewing are going to be in substantial conformance with the ones you're doing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's the ones I'm going to bring to you and it's the ones I submitted by Aaron electronically submitted them to everybody this afternoon. Along with everybody's response letter, so.
Yeah, as long as Lance has the opportunity to look at them too for review.
Oh, for sure. Okay, so I'm gonna print them up and get them to the health department and to the sewer department and to you guys tomorrow morning.
Okay, so Lance, I don't know if that's a condition that you have in the resolution, but if not, I guess that's got to be finally resolved, but it can be a condition. ECB looked at this plan. They had some questions about the conserved land. Is there any conservation easements related to this section at all?
So I can talk about that. This is not I think the ECB was a little bit confused about this being a conservation subdivision. This is not a conservation subdivision.
Yep.
This is a 281 cluster from the 80s. So it really, there's no conserved lands in this phase. There are some conserved lands within the subdivision, but not in this phase.
Okay, all right. Yeah, most of it's to the east. Yep.
Correct.
The other section. All right. With all that being said, I think we're ready to move on the amended final subdivision. Chris, if you want to put up the.
Chuck, do you want to do is a public hearing? Do we have to?
Oh, yeah, thank you. Before we move to any action, I will open it up to anyone from the public who would like to speak regarding this application.
Yes, I would, please.
Hi, Mrs. Beecher.
Yes, hi, I am Sonia Beecher, and I actually live in that little plot there, number 33.
Ah,
I'm right there on the end.
Okay.
Where we were talking about I have the weird lot behind me. So yeah, my concern is kind of a little bit of a layered concern. I know, I think it was Bob brought up the drainage. The water draining is an issue here. I mean, I live here, I see it. There is water drainage behind the house, but my concern is, with these little buildups of a foot, maybe an extra foot, not too bad. As that gets higher and higher, if this continues, I've got water all along down the side of my house. As these new builds continue, what are the plans to, protect, the subsurface water and the water above the ground around us, flowing into us, flowing into our neighbors. I mean, is there drainage plans put into place that's going to protect us? Because right now, if you are on the side of my house, we have a large mound of dirt, and around it, there's a nice little river that runs around it. So there's a lot of groundwater around here.
Hopefully the improvements on the lot will divert the drainage that's currently running off the undeveloped portion. Rocco, do you want to confirm that?
Yeah,
or expand on?
We did some extensive work on my land outside of, the approvals to dry up and cut off any water. So I certainly understand Mrs. Beecher's concerns, and I'm sympathetic towards them, but I think between what we did when they built their house, I mean, we did a ton of work to ensure that no water runs along that lot. And I have checked that in heavy rains. And I do think there's some water that kind of creeps along her north line, but it's not on her property, it's on our property. And I do think that the improvements on lot 11 are going to certainly dry her up and are not going to contribute to her problems. That driveway is going to cut off any water that kind of slips through the cracks. And then there's a swale on the north side of that driveway, so I don't foresee any problems. And I do think that house will end up being built back further than where we show it. So I don't think it'll be in the backyard like it shows there. But until that's done, I can't, you know.
I know when we were buying the house and signing, closing, and they were talking about drainage and, you know, new construction was going to drain to the north of us. Is that still the plan? Is that going north, or is all that coming towards us? All the
No, nothing.
the next 11?
Stoney, nothing's coming towards you. It's all going to the south and it's all going to the north. So what little bit that falls on the driveway is going to go to the north. And what falls around the house and above the house and the rest of the property is going to go to the south. There's two different swales, one behind the house and one in front of the house that direct the water around to the south.
And they all drain to that catch basin right in the corner down there. on the
That
south, right?
was left there for that purpose.
Mhm. Yeah, I
So-
would hope, Mrs. Beecher, that all that, you're getting water now off the undeveloped lot. And once it's developed, it'll be controlled with swales and collection systems, that water will no longer run onto your property. So I would think it would be better after it's built than what it is currently.
Well, that would be good, because there is water out there. And that's, you know, that's our concern. It's my neighbor's concern, because we feel, you know, with these houses going up 1 or 2 feet, if that's going to continue, we're going to have a hill next to us, and that's coming down. So we just want to make sure there's a, you know, a plan in place, you know, to catch all this water.
Well, as Chris Jensen was saying, with each individual lot, the builder is required to submit a plot plan showing the details of the drainage around the house and all that. And I think it's in more detail than this plan is. This plan is a smaller scale drawing, and that's a much larger scale drawing.
Okay.
And I think Chris would be willing to share that plan once it's submitted to make sure you're comfortable with what's happening behind you.
Yeah, no, we would. And I think he's already met my husband, so.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mrs. Beecher, for your concerns, and
Yes, thank you
it's
for
good to get
listening.
them aired at this point, so we can handle them. Anyone else, the general audience, would like to speak?
I just want to say one thing, Miss Beecher, if during construction you do have any water issues on your lot, please give me a call. I'll go out and I'll address them with the developer and stuff.
Okay, I'm sorry, who's talking?
That's Chris Jensen.
Oh, Chris, okay, all right, thank you. Yes, we will.
Your husband's friend.
Yes.
All righty.
We're- You know, we live here, so we're living in the construction and being patient and, you know, excited to embrace new neighbors, but I also, you know, don't want water issues for myself or anyone else, so.
That's none of us do.
No. Okay, well, thank you for listening.
Thank you for attending. Anyone else from the board before we move forward? If not, let's consider the application in terms of a resolution. Okay, we got the revision. We're looking at a plan last revised. I want to make sure, there've been so many plans, I want to make sure we have the right plan revision. Is it April 6th? No. February 25th, is it? Yeah.
225.
Okay. Okay, go back to the resolution, make sure that's in the preamble. So we know which plan we're approving.
Yep, it's right there.
Okay, good. All righty. If someone would like to make a motion, and we'll ask Lance to expand on the conditions so everyone understands, I will accept a motion.
This is
All right.
Bob.
Go ahead, Bob.
I'll make that motion for final approval, amended final subdivision phase plat approval for Venencia Group LLC Fox Ridge subdivision phase 5 Bravo-3, CPN 20-58, and the amount of conditions that Lance will tell me.
20.
20.
20. Well, any new ones? I know we
One
just
new
keep
one.
accumulating ones from previous approvals. So you want to give us the new ones, Lance?
Yeah, so the 18 that were on the draft that you guys received, and then we added number 19, which was the as-built elevations of the first floor of the homes to be provided for Fox Ridge 5B3 to the town CEO. The question is what is that prior to?
Right.
Prior to placing the floor joist?
Vertical construction.
Prior to home construction?
Vertical construction.
Yeah.
Honestly, guys, I don't even know if it's required because if they have a modification, they're going to give it to me during that plot plan at the beginning. And if it veers any,
Yep, Chris.
Yeah, but I think that's we're looking at two different checkpoints here. The first one's when they deliver before the building permit, but then we want to make sure that the foundation is actually built to what their plot is. So I think that's a second check.
I think it's a good condition. Belt and suspenders.
Yep.
All right, and then the last one that was added was the New York State DOH comment letter dated, and I don't have it open to reflect the date, but is to be addressed prior to issuance of permits. I believe is what you guys had asked.
And I think Rocco said it was addressed, but there was no response yet that I heard.
Yes, Rocco did submit a response letter. I did receive that response letter that shows that they've forwarded out responses back to DOH, but I haven't received anything from DOH yet.
Accepting it. Okay. All right, we'll leave it on the conditions. Okay, we have a motion and a second.
Chuck, we need a second.
Oh, we didn't get a second? How
Gary?
about if I'll second it.
Okay.
Motion by Bob, second by me. Any further discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is Lance. I think one of the conditions that I just want to make sure we captured correctly was number 18. And the way it's written is dedication of the roadway and infrastructure associated with Fox Ridge 5B2 is to be completed and then accepted by the town board prior to, and right now it's written issuance of building permits for 5B3. Is the board good with that?
I'm good.
Yeah.
hold up 1 second though. When they say building permits for B3, that would include site development, anything like that. So you want to hold up everything until they get the dedicated, right?
No, we don't.
Yeah.
Well, what the next action we're going to look at is the advanced site preparation. And that's something that we would allow to go forward, assuming we approve it. And but as far as the issue, the condition number 18, that's related to building permits.
Yeah, but I issue building permits for site development, soil and erosion, stuff like that. So if you could write that dwelling building permits or something.
Oh,
Yes.
Or you
yes.
could say building permits with the exception of development and soil and erosion control.
okay,
Chris, I
Lance.
apologize. I kind of heard half of what you said. Nadler.
Prior to the issuance of building permits, comma, with the exception of building permits for site development and soil and erosion control.
Gotcha.
Does that work, Chris Jensen?
Works for me if it works for you.
Thank you, sir.
So I guess let me just ask, has this been typical that we've needed dedication and approval by the town board before any building permit?
So the dedication that we're referring to is of a previous section that has homes and CFOs already issued. And
Oh.
so,
Okay, this
Yeah.
is not the extension through the entire
no,
cul-de-sac?
it would be the first portion, the first, I want to say 6 homes and that portion of roadway
Oh, 5,
and water main.
2, 5B,
Correct.
not 3. Okay, I got
Correct.
confused there. Okay,
All right.
I understand.
Everybody straight? Okay. So I guess we're ready to vote unless anybody has any further discussion. If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Motion passes. All right, let's move on to Rocco's request to do advanced site preparation. He submitted a request back on April 8th to move ahead with the site preparation work prior to the signing of the plan, which is a permission we can give pending public discussion and action by this board. There are some conditions that have to be met prior to granting that approval. Chris, Lance, have those conditions been met? Regarding the SWIP, regarding the security deposit?
So I believe Rocco mentioned that he's already was previously approved the letter of credit for 5B3 as part of the previous approval, which was done October. And there's a letter of credit currently on file with the town for that portion, which was at that point all inclusive of those plans. I would have to verify that, but I believe Rocco, when he tells me that it's been submitted, but we'll have to verify that. I haven't looked at the surety list from the town yet to confirm whether or not town clerk has received a check or not. I'm assuming it has been provided.
Yeah, they do have that. Gene has that.
Okay.
And the town board adopted it and cashed the check, so.
So I guess one element that I just, since we're talking about it, one element that will be required to be, that letter of credit on file will have to be tweaked to include the top coat, Rocco. Actually, no, I take that back. I forgot, I separated it out. So you're good. That one's all good.
Okay. Okay.
All
So
right, so
I guess, Mr. Chairman, from my perspective, the elements that would need is the SWIP approval, which they have. They would need plan approval, which as of tonight they've received. They would need a letter of credit surety to cover the portions of erosion and sediment control associated with the work that's being done out there, which they have, assuming we get confirmation from Gene that has been filed.
okay, and Chris, if he hasn't done so already, he has to formally file for a site development permit, erosion sedimentation control permit.
Yeah, we'll take care of that.
Okay, and where do we get back to the checking the capacity of that basin? I know is an issue, the existing basin, to make sure it has adequate storage. Was that something that's part of this site work?
I can talk about that, Chuck.
Yeah.
So we went out in August or September and we surveyed the basin, the forebay.
Uh-huh.
And we found that it was within inches of where it was originally built. So it looks like it's in good shape. We did document it and send it to Lance. He has to have a copy of that, and I think Chris does too. So we believe we're in compliance with that.
And for the board's purview, that's also a condition of approval. It's item number 13 that identifies the existing depth and capacity of the stormwater management facility is to be documented and forwarded to the town development office prior to issuance of CFOs.
That's been submitted.
Okay, I knew I read it somewhere. Okay, I'm good. Board have any other questions?
So,
On
Rocco,
letting,
can you just tell me what,
developer go ahead with at least the site work?
What was that, Gary?
so Rocco, I just want to kind of, what primary site work do you, is it really to get the road extended out in the cul-de-sac? Are you going to do all the site work for the house?
Gary, it's May, so it's the best time to do planting, okay?
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do is we're trying to move some topsoil around and build those. We got to push off where the topsoil is around the cul-de-sac area.
Yeah.
And we got to store that and we got to seed it. But then the lots on the back end of the cul-de-sac have to be built out. There's about 5,000 yards of dirt sitting out there that we need to put in place, cover it with topsoil and seed it. So the reason we're asking for advanced preparation is to get that done so I can get it seeded in the middle of May when the grass grows the best around here. That's what that's why we're asking for it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. The only thing, just as a courtesy to those 6 property owners that live there, make sure that your tire scrubber is
Yep.
being maintained. You're not dragging mud out in front of their homes and up West Ridge Road.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So I think we can move on this. I think it's just a motion and a second and an approval. There's no formal document. The minutes. I don't think there's a formal document. You didn't prepare one, right, Lance?
Yeah, I didn't provide a resolution for this.
That's all right. Okay, we'll just do it as a second and a motion. The record will reflect the action. I'll make a motion that we grant Venezia and Gerber permission to go ahead with the advanced site preparation work in conformance with the plans as submitted. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, Bob.
Bob seconded. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
We thank you.
Okay, Rocco,
You won't see Fox Ridge no more
we heard that last
We
year.
hope not.
unless John messes up a house
Yeah,
elevation.
right.
And John Robitella, I did close that hearing. I just mumbled it to myself, so,
Oh, loud and clear. I heard it.
okay. All right, speaking of public hearings, we move on to our next public hearing for Marks Engineering and ATL Contractors representing Tom Sawyer, owner of property at yet to be numbered Emerson Road. And Tom is seeking a single stage site plan approval and the special use permit. I will open the public hearing. I will call on either Brennan or Mr. Sawyer to tell us what they intend to do out there.
I think it's just me. So
Okay, you're the star.
yeah. So the plan is to put up a new metal building, 60 by 120, I think it is. That's going to be used for vehicle and equipment service. Somewhat similar to like American Equipment, Admar, but they'll probably be doing some truck service also. Diesel mechanics, I guess you would call it. The site, it's gonna have an entrance off of Emerson Road. It'll be a lot of gravel pavement around the building, some parking at the front. We'll be grading off the site on the north or the east and west side. That's going to go down to a pond on the south of the parking lot, where it'll outlet to an existing drainage ditch there. I think it's a Honda dealership to the west. It's vacant land to the east. This is pretty scrubby vacant land that has been vacant for a while. It's never had anything on it. So the use is the vehicle service. It kind of fits in the area. There's a lot of automobile sales service. I mean, 332. And, it's not very visible from 332. The Vision Honda or the Vision or the whatever Honda dealership out there is screens it off pretty much fully. So we've proposed a landscaping plan that shows just some site trees, and there is we did get, Chris notified us there is a buffer requirement for the town of Canandaigua for buffering the property from the sides. We asked the planning board to remove that condition of having a 10-foot densely vegetated buffer on either side of this, because it is consistent with the uses on the west side of the Honda dealership, and then there's vacant land on the east side. So it's to buffer it out from similar uses and or vacant land. It just doesn't make a ton of sense to us. So that, and we did get the comment letter from Lance. We were reviewing it. quickly look through it, have no problems with any of it. Be glad to take care of all the issues they have.
Okay. Questions, board?
Hey, Brendan, if I may, this is Bob.
Yep.
First of all, I want to start out by saying I truly appreciate the positioning of your building on how your bays are not facing the road of Emerson. I personally don't like bays facing main roads that they're on. And so I just want to say straight up, I appreciate the placement like that. It's not going to look as much like a auto repair or vehicle repair facility there, which is 100% better than open bays right toward the road.
Mhm.
And this might be just me looking at your plans, but your tree sizes show 3 to 2. What is that? 3 to 2 inches, 3 to 2. It shows, I don't know if I'm looking at it right, but I don't know how big your trees are you going to put in?
They're going to meet the town minimum standard size. I think it's 2.5 caliber. If there's an error there, we'll get that corrected.
Yeah, if you go down further, Chris, on the bottom, and it shows right there, it says 3 something.
3-inch caliber and then 2-inch caliber. I think you're right. 2.5 is right the minimum for the town. So
Okay. That was my only comment on that. I didn't have a problem with your landscaping plan as is, but that was me. Thanks.
thank you.
Yeah, this is Gary. I don't really have a problem with the landscaping plan either. I think this is a good site for this type of facility. As you say, it kind of it goes along with everything, all the other car dealerships, everything that's kind of along there. I agree with Bob. I think the placement of the building is good. I guess I just want to ask again about, or ask, because I think I heard you say that the parking area, if you want to call it that, whole area around the building itself, is that going to be just, is that going to be stone, gravel? Is it going to be asphalt? What is that? What's the plan there for the parking area and everything around the building?
Yeah. So actually, we submitted a subsequent plan to this. That Chris, I understand notice didn't go out on it, so we couldn't really display it. But parking basically goes along the front, the bays that are on the west side, all the way down to the bottom. That's going to be all asphalt, and it's going to go out the entrance because that has to be paved, and then it's going to go around to the northeast corner of the building there, and kind of head due east into the property line. So I would say half of it's going to be paved, the other half is going to be gravel. So it's the gravel on the east and the south side of the building really is just that they didn't want to spend the money, I guess, to pave it all up front, and that's really going to be like vehicles that they're working on storage coming in. And really the business is going to be on the north side and on the west side of the building, in which that's what they want to pave.
Okay, that's good. I'm glad that's going to be paved. And I guess for this type of a facility, I was just wondering, do you need that many parking spaces? That seems like a lot of parking spaces for vehicles that are going to be worked on and then left, but in and out.
It's that's a good question, and the town code requires. The answer is the town code requirement is what we're meeting.
Can we land bank some of those maybe? And instead of, or what would you want?
I don't think it's unreasonable for the contractor. And wanted all the parking too. He was not opposed to it.
Okay.
So and more or less be done with it, build it and be done with it. If you land bank it, then you got to go back in and do work if you need more. And he was okay with it. So.
Brennan?
Yeah.
You mentioned that it's going to be like Admar. Are you going to be selling things in the parking lot and stuff?
No sales. I mean, in the terms of service and vehicle service.
You also said it was a diesel service. I've done a few designs on deal service. Usually their parking spaces need to be a little bigger than these. I don't know, as far as like, you're talking small diesel vehicles or you're talking over the road tractor trailers and stuff?
So I see diesel mechanic, so vehicle sales service diesel mechanic, the equipment more or less, Chris. You'll probably have some dozers there that'll be worked on, some loaders, skid steers, and then tractor trailer, not trailers, but the actual, the tractors themselves. So that's a good question, Chris. That was kind of the reason why we left it all gravel on the south and east side of the building. So the parking will be there, but it's, some of the vehicles will take up more than one spot. So.
Yeah, that's pretty much what I was wondering, because as long as you can maintain those fire lanes, that's what we're worried about.
Yeah. Yep. There is a, we might, I was going to say that, Chris, the last one I sent to you, I know you probably can't put it up here, but on the south side of the building, we did bump the parking out a little bit further than where it is now, for some of those larger vehicle storage.
Yeah, honestly, I don't even have that PDF, the updated PDF on the network yet. If you want to resend it.
Yeah, really, it was just literally the 60-foot. If you take the width of 60 foot of the building, we bumped south. We bumped the parking lot 20 feet towards the south, just that 60-foot stretch. And it's not a substantial change, but the board can, make request it if they want to see it. So I could show it to you, but.
Brennan, do you have any elevation of the building, what it's going to look like from the street?
I do not. I asked the developer to provide them. He says he's got a few lines on a 60 by 120 metal building. It's going to be steel clad, 212 or should I say 112 pitch roof. Really utilitarian building, steel building. We can dress it up with colors and that are earth tone that's going to match the surrounding area, but nothing architectural.
Well, the reason I bring it up, this lot's in the Uptown study area.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you went through our Uptown study in terms of what the image the town's trying to get out there. Admittedly, it is not something that we can regulate, but at least suggest. And we're in the process of developing a uniform code, base code, and that would apply to a lot such as this. And certainly you're out ahead of the curve on this thing. And I was just trying to figure out how, in some regards, we could provide some of the elements of the Uptown study to this thing. I mean, certainly signing, the signing that's sort of warranted or shown in the Uptown study and the form base is something that can be considered. Landscaping, the facade, what the elevation of the building looks like. I mean, if you're willing to work with the town on this, because this is one of the initial properties to be developed since that study's been issued. So
Okay.
have you looked at it at all? Are you familiar with it? Are you aware what what we're shooting for there?
I'll be honest with you, Chuck, vaguely. I understand some of the uses that that's proposed, but other than that, that's about as far as I get. And I know I probably should be further along. What is it architecturally, or is there something and some elements you're trying to see in terms of that?
I know it's tough on a pre-engineered building to come up with something that's gingerbready, and it's not really gingerbready per se. It's more in uniform and trying to set a aesthetic tone as to how the buildings would look in the study area. And I would ask that you at least look at that, and maybe there's some suggestions, because the other thing we have to talk to you about is the special use permit. And there we do have some more leeway in terms of requirements that in issuing the special use permit, that can be conditioned conditioned by the board for certain elements to be shown and introduced to in order to get the special use permit. I'm just thinking, I know you've got submitted a second plan that hasn't really been looked at yet. I'm just thinking maybe this is something we should defer until the next meeting.
Yeah, that's totally acceptable. Some good direction from the town would be nice in terms of the uptown study. If you guys got some elements that I can steer towards the developer, say, this would be nice to include. And then at that point, you're right. We can have some building elevations and some colors picked out and whatnot. And I understand the board's reservation there. So yeah, that's fine, Chuck.
Okay, I appreciate that, and let the applicant know that also. Does the board agree with my thoughts on this, or how do you feel?
I agree with you, Chuck.
Chuck, maybe one other question that I guess I should really wrap my head around that uptown study. I mean, we can do a lot with landscaping too, and then leave a steel building because the budget's always one thing, right? So I mean, if it's more plantings on Emerson Road, that's foundation plantings or something like that. That's very doable too. But I guess I gotta figure out what that report says.
You like signage too?
So it applies to signage. It's a little different look to the signs, the freestanding signs, any signs on the building. And landscaping, additional landscaping would help. And at least it can be then said that the applicant in all good faith has tried to work toward not complying with, but at least applying the concepts that were in the study, which is, I think, what this board is trying to get people to think about. I know we talked about it with the property down next to Tom Walls last month, and we asked them to look into any possible applications. Of course, we're in a limbo period right now where it's really not a regulation per se, but it's something that's coming, and as I said, it's tough to maybe require it as part of the site plan approval, but with the special use permit, I think we have a little more, as I said, a little more leverage there. So,
well, and quite frankly, too, that this developer is here to stay. He's also the same builder that's going to be doing Candigo Shores, so I don't think he's opposed to working with the board by any means.
okay, good. Well, if you don't mind, we'll just we'll continue the hearing, and we will reopen it next month. Do you have, has a statement of operations been submitted? I'm just trying to think of anything else you need to clean up so we don't go through this again next month or next meeting.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, this is Lance. Yeah, one was provided in our comment letter. We do have some questions that we asked Brennan to just add to the statement.
Okay. Yeah, that's the other thing, Brennan. I know Lance did a very detailed review letter, had quite a few pages, quite a few items. So maybe if you can start chipping away at those too. And,
already on it. Yeah.
Okay.
It wasn't that bad. Come on. It wasn't that bad.
No, it wasn't bad. I don't think it was that bad. I think the 24, the first part was site plan, just adding some notes and stuff. And then
Yeah.
the second half was drainage, which we're always going to have comments on drainage.
Yeah.
well, maybe my eyes glazed over after third page.
So yeah, that's go ahead.
It's Chris. I was just wondering if you could maybe add another light fixture to the entrance right here too, just to define, because Emerson's a really dark street, to show where people can come on and come off Emerson Road, kind of define the entrance.
Absolutely.
Just out of curiosity, Brennan in town, it's my understanding that there is no freestanding sign that's being proposed at this time. Is that correct?
No.
Okay.
They quite honestly, they don't know what they put on it yet. So, this is all this is a venture for them, I guess you would say, right? And they've got a business model. They've got the need, they've got the personnel, It's just they're putting it together now, so.
Okay, well, this was a good first blush of it. I think some details have to be worked out. One other thing on the landscape, you have two deciduous trees either side of the entrance. How about a mirror image of putting two trees on the back islands there too, possibly? That would sort of set it off. I'm just
I'll
looks
ask.
all-
I'll ask. Maybe we can kick some out on the south side of the parking lot. That's going to be, I mean, with the revised plan, you'll see that there's going to be overheads there too. So that'll be a very busy spot for plantings. So if you want some on the south side of the lot, we can add some there.
Okay, and Chris Jensen, I know in this zoning district, you've got a certain number of trees per island. I know there's no islands in this, but I guess applying those regulations to this property, is this in compliance?
The thing is all those conditions are able to be waived by the planning board. So it's kind of your guys' decision what you see and whether you like it or not. They have certain guidelines, but it's up to the planning board.
Okay. Brennan, I did sense the board was favorable toward waiving the 10-foot buffer requirement. I don't think that's something that's needed here. So you can put that in your quiver anyway.
Right. Well, no, that's fine. Thank you. Yeah, we'll be, hopefully you can do this next meeting, right? If I
Right.
get everything in time, right?
Yep.
And let's plan on next meeting then.
Okay, very good. All right, I will, do I have a motion to close the hearing? Or
Do you-
continue the hearing, excuse me.
Yeah, Chuck, do you want to open this up to the public before we do that?
Yeah, I guess we could take, if someone's here to,
If
Speak on this?
if there's anybody here to talk to it.
okay, before we continue the hearing, is there anyone in the audience who would like to ask any questions or comment on this particular application? Okay, of course, if I wouldn't have asked, there would have been people.
Would have been. All right.
Thanks,
Having
Gary.
heard none, I will go ahead and make do I make a motion to just
Continue.
continue this to the meeting on May 11th?
Okay, I have motions, I have second.
Second.
Okay, thank you, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that concludes our hearings for tonight. We now are moving on to some site plan reviews. First being an application for Works Engineering representing John Lewis on our property 4210 County Road 16. John is seeking a single stage site plan approval to tear down and rebuild an existing single-family dwelling. John's request had to go before the ZBA, which it did last week, and he was successful in getting his variances. So he's before us this evening. So Brennan, John, you got the floor.
Thank you. Yeah, the application here is to tear down an existing cottage on the west side of County Road 16 and replace it with a new structure with an attached garage to the rear of the structure and a new driveway coming up from Road 16 to the garage. Currently, the house has a driveway on the north side of the property, and yeah, there you go. It's very close to the northern line. There's a series of retaining walls behind the structure to catch grade, and yeah, it doesn't fit the site, and it doesn't fit the owner's needs, so he's replacing it. The driveway is going to be pervious coming up from the paved apron coming off of the road. That's going to take a lot of our storm water and infiltrate for the driveway. And the new house roof runoff will be collected and diverted to an infiltration trench before it's discharged to a catch basin on the county road. We've provided a landscaping plan, or so grading, yeah, there's grading on the uphill side of the house that we're diverting most of it to the north and around the house and down to the road. And then a little bit's getting caught is directed south to a catch basin that will go into the infiltration trench and then to the county road. There'll be a retaining wall on the south and the north side or the west side of the house that starts, I think it's at 2 foot tall and goes up to 6 or 7 feet and then connects back into the garage. The back wall of the garage will be used for retaining the soil back. Again, it's a lot of elevation on the site. Our driveway does meet the town maximum. I think it's 15%, but I think it's actually designed around 12% or less. So it's very manageable. If you want to flip to the landscaping plan, we've provided planting details for all along the house. We're screening off the southern neighbor with a row of arborvitaes. We've got some shorter flowering trees in the front of the house. It's not going to obstruct the view, but it's also going to blend it in with the surroundings and not be an eyesore from the shore. There's also some shorter shrubs around the deck, some planting beds, and some mulch beds, and then a little bit on the garage side of the house also. The property already has a lot of landscaping on the lake side of the residence or lake side of the road. There's a series of retaining walls that have lots of plantings in them. I don't know, Chris, you probably have a picture from the lake for this. So the owner is very active in landscaping and maintaining the property. And since you mentioned that, John, if you got anything you want to say, there's the elevation views of the house, and John Scott can talk about his side of things here if he wants to.
Yeah, Brendan, not a lot to add. I mean, I view myself as a homeowner that takes pride in the landscaping of the house. That will continue with the new house. I think the new dwelling will fit into the style of what you see to the north and to the south of me as far as homes go. The home existing as it exists today sets quite a bit forward towards the road compared to my neighbors on both sides. Both my neighbors on both sides have driveways that go around the back and the driveways go around the south side. So we are mimicking it so that it will fit into the same philosophy as to how we get back to the garages. So we've taken a lot of things in consideration when we designed a house to make it fit both for our purposes and our needs, but also into the neighborhood and the surrounding area.
Okay. I will open the discussion up to the board.
This is Amanda. Could we pull up the elevation plans again? I'm looking on the town website here and I don't see that in the bundle, but I may have missed that. So I just want to cue that up for everyone to look at in more detail too. Okay.
And John, that facade is like a cedar shake or stone with cedar shake?
It'll look, see down by the water, there's a small boathouse down there. It'll have the exact same siding and the same stone like you see here. So if you were in the water and looking at the house, you will see the same thing on both on optics. The siding is actually, I believe it's not aluminum, but it's I'm not a building person to tell you, but it's fabricated from that kind of building. Brendan, you can probably talk to better.
Yeah, if he flips back to those pictures, I probably can tell you. I think it looks like hardy siding, but if I had to guess, but.
So it's a textured siding, and I assume it's going to be an earth tone.
Yeah, there you go. That's the siding. It's on that one down there.
Oh yeah, so it's cedar shake.
Okay.
Yep. There you go. That siding right there.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, it's a composite material, but it looks like cedar shake. It's really weather resistant and stuff.
We are quite pleased with what they did down by the water. So
There you can almost see the stone on that.
Okay.
And this is where we do a lot of landscaping. So if you were to drive by our place on the lake, I would hope that you would see a very strong representation of well-landscaped property in front of you.
Amanda, does that answer your question, or Drescher?
Yeah, and I wanted to tie it into kind of the landscaping and in context of the Lake Shore guidelines. I know we'll talk about that, but I could just open it up. You know, on the site plans, there are, you know, the outlines of the proposed plantings and how they will look and so forth. But for the board, I guess my question is, would the site plan landscaping detail be sufficient in order for us to say that this meets Lakeshore guidelines? Because I think what I've seen in, you know, my short time here is, you know, a separate plan, renderings, color, beautiful drawings, so on and so forth. But would the site plan outline of the landscaping plan be appropriate?
Well, you are correct. Usually there's a shoreline guideline statement that goes along with a plan. I don't know if a statement, an actual formal narrative is to describing the plan as to how the developer intends to ensure the protection of the vista and the view from the lake. As for shoreline guideline, okay, it's a one paragraph. There it is.
Yeah.
And that then to be supplemented with the plan that you're looking at.
Okay.
And you're right. I mean, some applicants pretty it up with painting the trees green and the flowers pink and all that kind of stuff. And but I think this is enough to at least give me a concept what it's going to look like. And I think there's certainly adequate shrubbery and landscaping out in front of the house, which is primarily what we're trying to protect.
The landscaping plan there is very specific on a species and size and count of landscaping.
Amanda, you asked a good question though. The answer is it's up to you. If this gives you enough information, then you can make your determination.
Right.
It'll give you enough information, then ask for more. I think you asked it the right way though, to get, you know, Chuck and Gary and Bob's experience, and Lance can help guide with this too, and as well, you know, to get their experience, but it is your decision ultimately.
To also add
Brandon.
something, so we're sorry, since we're talking about shoreline and vegetation, there is one big pine tree that we decided to save and protect for the project. So that is a mature pine tree. That was one of the things the ZBA actually requested. So sorry, John.
No, I was just going to mention that too. That pine tree that you see is probably understated in its size. It is probably it's well over the height of the power line. So it's it's probably approaching 30 feet in diameter.
Yeah, I was out there today, John, and it was a pretty big tree. Yeah.
So what
Good to see you keep it.
so what we did is we purposely put the driveway, you can see how it curves a little bit towards the bottom, because we wanted to do what it took to try to preserve that tree. So if you were to go back to that picture of my house, you might, the existing house, you might see that tree, and it's substantial in the amount of visibility it takes when people look at the landscaping.
Could you talk to Amanda's question on how big those big plants will be in front of your house?
Yeah, so those I think they're flowering. I don't know if everyone else is having the same problem here. I think they're canadensis. I think they're the red buds or something like that. Oh, there you go. There's the tree.
Yeah, big tree.
Yeah. Those flowering trees in the front of the house will be around 14 to 16 feet tall. They're a flower in the spring. They hold flower for, I think, almost a month. And then the shrubbery is going to be anywhere from 3 feet to 4 feet tall. that'll be around the foundation, around the front of the house. And then your landscaping beds in front of those are just gonna hold your perennials and your
Yeah.
shorter flowering plants. But we have the large pine tree that shows there in the south corner. Then we got 2 flowering trees, those SPs, there in the front of the house. And then I think there's some more vegetation as you go north that doesn't even show on here on the north property line. So it's gonna, if you're looking at this, you're gonna have more than 50% vegetation you're gonna see, so.
But you're losing 2 trees, right, Brian?
Yeah, yeah.
One is gonna come down anyways. It's starting to split right down the middle and it's becoming a power line issue to my house. So you're really kind of losing one, I would think.
Mm-hmm.
So for what it means, my wife is a master gardener, and I mean, she takes great pride in putting together these landscaping. So I'd be shocked if somebody who drove by didn't say, wow, nice landscaping.
And looking at this bird's eye view, I guess the new house will be back in line with the house to the south.
Yeah, so if you're looking at the house that's to your left, it's almost, the front of it is almost sitting equal to those 3 windows you see below. You see
And while you're mentioning that house, that neighbor did write a letter with a couple questions, concerns. I think they were addressed prior to the ZBA meeting, and they were put on the record. And I think he is now happy with the way the plan is worked out.
That is correct. Chip, his name is Chip, and Chip was very pleased with the changes and very supportive.
I talked with him today. He seemed to be happy with it.
Oh, good. That's good to go. I was going to ask about that. And can you just for me, what were the variances that were allowed and granted by the ZBA?
It was 1.6% lot coverage variance and 2 feet setback variance on the north side.
On the north side. Okay. Okay, well, I'm pretty comfortable with it. And I guess to answer Amanda's question, just from my experience, this landscaping plan satisfies me, and why it does, I think, is the detail that's in there in terms of the species, the numbers, the types. When all that information is there, you can kind of get I guess you might have to look up what some of these species are, but you can get a visualization, at least I can, as to what would be there.
My
So
only
having that
request,
detail is what really satisfies me that the current plan is adequate for us to determine compliance.
trying to find stuff that deer doesn't eat too, that's not easy.
Well, that's real hard.
Good luck.
Yeah, you got that one figured out. Send me a note.
Chili peppers.
Constantly
There you
bad.
go.
Hey, John, Brandon, I had a question. First, a comment. I congratulate you using the Belgrade permeable lockers for your driveway. We talk a lot about permeability and your driveway, and I think it's going to help a lot of your shed. I researched Belgrade a lot and made sure and checked all that. The one question I had is, there seems to be a lot of maintenance with it to make sure that it's maintained and kept cleaned. So that would be one of my concerns, that in the future. But then also in construction, there are directions talk about that this driveway would be the very last thing to go in. Is that correct, Brian?
Yeah, and I think a big thing for him is, like he says, he likes to visit snow. So it won't be necessarily fully plowed all the time, which just helps on the maintenance of it. And then, construction of it is definitely a skill. It's, that's required of the contractor, knowing when to put it in and how to put it in, so.
And then all that water that's going to go down through and then hit the pavement area, how is that going to be held underground there? I mean, it's going to go right down to that point, and it's going to hit a point that's not permeable. You know what I mean? underground.
Yeah, I mean, we're relying on
Slope.
the subgrade to absorb the water as it's going down. That's the whole principle behind it.
Yeah,
If you're asking for some type of a cutoff or water bar or trench drain across the entrance, I don't think it's necessary.
okay. Well, that's what my question is. I see the detail here and it's very good details and it shows me how it's going to drain. And then it's going to, hopefully the pavement is going to be close to that so that say it drains the same down to the catch basin.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
One,
all.
one of the concerns I had when I bought this house several years back was, I've seen my sister-in-law's place down Westlake Road where heavy rains, they get a very strong running of water that comes down. And what they did on this lot, and it's going to stay that way, is the whole back section, which goes back like 300 feet, is all staggered. So it goes slope, slack. So that staggeredness is really, during even the worst storms, I've never seen it much water flowing down from the hillside.
No, I think that's a good point, John, is we controlling it before it even gets to the driveway, so that's definitely going to minimize the amount of water on the driveway, so.
Bob, do you recall, did the spec sheet or the cut sheet you saw for Belgrade, did that have a maintenance schedule as how the,
Yes, it
is
did.
that something
It
that
does. Yeah.
we should maybe refer to, or is it already on here? So
Um,
that, and I know Chris Jensen's he's probably sitting there ready to jump out of his chair and he's going to say, I'm not going to be doing inspections to make sure these things are being maintained. But in the same regard, at least as long as it's on the plan as to what the maintenance schedule should be and what should be done to ensure that the porosity remains.
Yeah, Belgrade did talk about their maintenance plan in depth. So there is a plan for maintenance.
Yeah, Chris.
Oh, all I was saying was it's private property, single family dwelling. It's not commercial. So once it's built and we walk away from it.
Yeah, I mean, I want the owner to use it. I do. It's just,
oh yeah,
I just want to make sure it continues to be a good product that's going to stop runoff into the lake. That's all.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else from the board have any questions, concerns? The county planning board recommended denial, as they usually do in situations, properties on the lake. So we need all four of us to vote in the affirmative for this to continue. Let's see, revised plans we talked about. I talked about the neighbor's letter, driveway slope. We talked about the facade color. Okay, I think we're good to go. And I'll take a motion from someone on the board as far as the seeker. It's a type 2. I'm comfortable with bundling this with the site plan approval. So if somebody wants to give me a motion on both the seeker and the site plan, I will entertain.
And this is Amanda. I'll make a motion for CPN 21-011 4210 County Road 16 for Mr. Lewis, for seeker type 2 and the final site plan approval with, I believe, 6 conditions.
Yeah, did we expand on those plans?
The only question that came up recently was the maintenance of the driveway. So we either are adding a 7th condition that the plans be revised to add the maintenance schedule for the impervious surface material, driveway pavers, to be added to the plans, or if the board's confident and comfortable, we just stick with the 6.
I'd be comfortable just sticking with the 6.
Okay.
Concur.
I hear you. Okay, we have a motion from Amanda. Do I have a second?
Gary will second.
Okay. One other item, Brennan. You remember at the ZBA, they brought up the note that your zoning data sheet showed the building height to be over 35 feet. Did you or will you make that correction?
Yeah.
Plan show 25.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. That being agreed to, then we're ready to move. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. good luck, John, and.
Well, thank you, board. Appreciate it.
Bren. Okay.
Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Oh, John, one
Yeah.
last thing. You're going to have some building materials coming out of that demolition that are probably in pretty good shape. Have you considered using Restore to take those items? Any items that somebody else wouldn't want?
I haven't even had that discussion. To be honest with you, most likely, I'm not committed, but most likely, Tim McKenna, he's the one that did a lot of work already. He's liable to be the builder of the home. He'll probably be in charge of the demolition, but I can certainly mention it to him, Chuck.
Yeah, I think they would look upon all these items as being.
What was that name again? I'll write it down.
It's part of Habitat for Humanity. It's the Restore building over in County Route 10.
Okay, I'll mention it to him.
Okay, thank you. All right, again, fellas, good night.
Take care.
Okay, see you guys.
All right. On our initial agenda was the site plan approval for Costage for property at 3844 County Route 16. I've been informed that they have withdrawn their application, so that will come off the agenda. And we move ahead to what we mentioned previously, the Venetia Gerber adjustments to the first floor elevations, which requires an amended single-stage site plan approval. I think let's discuss them all together because I think it's all the same issues. I think we talked about most of the issues involved with this and how we can prevent it from occurring in the future. But as far as motions, we'll take separate motions for each one. But at least for the purpose of discussion, let's talk about all four at once. So, John, Rocco, you have anything to add, or does excuse me? I guess
No, I just wanted to reassure the board that the site work, the grading, is okay and is like was on the original plan. What changed was in each instance we got higher, and we got higher because we were trying to show more block and get some kind of those bigger windows in the downstairs. So that's what happened. So in each one of these instances, the grading plan conforms with this grading plan. It's just the house itself sits a little bit higher and well under the 35-foot rule. So,
Chuck, did you receive any neighbors complaint or any neighbor letters or comments?
I didn't see any, and I certainly I'll open it up to the public here later in just a second, see if any of the neighbors are with us this evening. But I don't recall seeing any. No,
I didn't either.
No, I didn't either. Could you, Rocco, just, is it 1 foot, 2 foot? How high are they for each of these?
there's none of them that are 2 foot. They're all about 1.5 foot higher. So,
Okay,
Well, this one right here is approved at 903.67 and built at 906.5.
oh, so I misspoke. I'm sorry.
okay.
I thought they were all, so you can be within 1 foot, and then I'm thinking they're within 1.5 foot or 2 foot, but I'm also including that 1 foot. So they could be 2 or 3 feet, all of them.
Yeah, they are. 37, 32 is like 3 feet.
Oh.
well, just make sure you have those side yard swales that
Oh, no, this one's only 1.5 foot.
lacrosse. Yeah. Okay.
I guess the big question is town engineering, do you believe they're in substantial conformance and the draining and everything works as originally designed?
Yep, this is Lance with MRB Group. We did issue comment letters on each one of these. And I concur that I believe these are in conformance with the original approved plans. The drainage swales between the properties are still there. And then the rear drainage, where it's been modified, still goes to the ultimate disposition of where it was supposed to and intended to go. So I don't have anything additional outside of what was on my comment letters that was provided for each of the units.
Yeah, and visually, they don't really jump out of the ground. I don't see anything visually. It was a little tough to tell because the grading hadn't been done when I was out there, but I think it'll work. It's just a shame we have to go through this exercise.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there anyone from the general public, any neighbors or anyone else that would like to ask questions regarding this application? If not, let's move on to the resolutions. It'll be separate resolutions, but I will, in the interest of time, accept a bundled motion and second for all four, unless there's something unique to any one of the applications. And I don't think there is.
No, I don't think so either. So I will, this is Gary. I will go ahead and make a motion to approve amended single stage site plans for CPN 21-026, 21-024, 21-025, and 21-027. All of those properties are on, three of those are on Lacrosse Circle and one is on Lake Breeze Way, the 21-025.
Do I have a second?
Second, Amanda.
Okay, thank you, Amanda. All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the four resolutions before us regarding Fox Ridge. And if hearing no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
Thank
carri-
you.
Motion carries. Okay, very good.
Good night,
Rocco,
folks.
Rocco,
night.
you said before, no more Fox Ridge, right?
That's
That's
it.
it. Good night, good
Done
night,
now.
folks.
Can't come back.
I can't come back. Good
No.
night. I'll start some other fire somewhere else for you.
All right, thanks. All right, we're getting there, folks. And to the folks who have been waiting patiently for the next two applications, which are it's kind of a twin application, but we'll have to take them separately. We have Venezia Associates representing Chuck and Kate Vasilius, owners of property at 3439 Westlake Boulevard, seeking to single stage site plan approval to build a home on the lot. They went before the ZBA last week also, and they were successful in getting their variance for the stream setback. So let's talk about Chuck and Kate's property first, and then we'll move on to the next door neighbor. Tony or Anthony, are you taking care of this?
Yeah, Chuck, I'm here. I'm gonna put it over to Erin.
Speak up, Anthony.
You there? All right, I'm gonna put it over to Erin, who did the site engineering, and she's gonna run you guys through the design. And then we also have Dan Hackett here that will run us through the landscape plan. So we're gonna put it over to Erin first to talk about the site design.
Hi, Erin.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Erin Joyce with Joyce Consulting Group and Venezia Associates. So this evening, we're looking at the Vasilius residence first, which is located to the north of the application that follows this, which is the Reinhardt residence. The Vasilius parcel is currently vacant. So they're looking to construct a single family home on the property. The associated improvements are typical of a single family home in that there is a looped driveway proposed and some patio space at the lake side of the residence. The unique aspect of this project, which I think is going to be a big part of what we would like feedback and to talk about tonight, is kind of this shared stream improvement on the south side of the parcel. You'll note that there is reference to kind of a joint stream improvement effort to be undertaken by both property owners as they work through the construction of these single family residences. I don't know if you have specific questions related to the residence design, but as we typically show with the lakefront developments, we like to incorporate a lot of stormwater infiltration for stormwater quality management and also quantity management. So we're directing all roof drains to infiltration systems that wrap the property. We also looked to incorporate a rain garden that will hopefully be able to manage some of the driveway runoff before it flows off into the south and into the renovated, reconstructed stream area. Some of the unique, I guess, features between this parcel and the parcel to the south is that there are some connection points between the properties that exist today along the lakefront where the stream outlet is right now like a decked over, I believe it's a decked over area. So we'll be doing some improvements associated with that. This parcel is served by Westlake Boulevard. So you'll see that the entrance to the site is a lot closer to the lake. When we look at the property to the south, which is the Reinhardt's parcel, their access is from Westlake Road. So they have a much longer boulevard style driveway coming into their site. So looks a little different in scale and size when we're looking at the projects together. But overall, the Vesalius property is a little bit, their property is not quite as large as the Reinhardt, but similar in style. We have with us the landscape architect, Mr. Dan Hackett, who can kind of speak to what the parcels will kind of look like together. These parcels have been working collaboratively to have a landscape features that will complement both parcels, and overall a strategy that I think will really, even though these parcels are vacant and it's hard to, see a vacant parcel go to development, I think the landscape has been very well thought out, and the improvements that are associated with the stream will not only beautify the stream and help the drainage for the upstream watershed get through that area, but I think it's going to look really nice too from both the lake and for the residences. So I'd like to address questions that the board might have. So maybe I can have Dan address and just kind of talk overall of the landscape strategy. So if you have the strategy that maybe shows the two residences together, that would be a nice context to talk about.
Everybody.
Is it possible to bring up the colored image that shows the two residences next to each other?
Next one. There you go. Hi, I'm Dan Hackett. I'm actually with Anthony this evening.
Hey, Chris Nadler, you got an open mic.
Pardon me?
Go ahead.
Okay. I'm Dan Hackett, the landscape architect, working with Aaron and Anthony on the project. The two projects, again, the strategy, and I know it's two separate applications, but the strategy really for this, and I think the shoreline guidelines were pretty clearly defined in the statement that we put in. But one of the biggest issues is currently between the two properties, there's a channelized swale. That channelized swale is basically timbers, concrete, railroad ties, and anything else I think they could find along the way to retain the banks. The strategy really is to razz the decking that is on the box culvert going out to the lake. That box culvert would remain. So that's that area to the east of the property, and it would be grass between the two properties. From where that existing deck then travels west, it is to unchannelize the swale, open it up into a riparian swale, allow for rain gardens that would feed into that for first flush treatment, and really create a stream. Right now that's labeled as a stream. I don't know if you've been out there and looked at it. It's hard to imagine that as a stream. The volume for flooding is pretty large. It can get caught up because the channel is so small. Again, that channel is being broadened. The volumes, Erin has done the calcs on and is working on that. She's also working with the DEC on it. And this will basically be a habitat for turtles, crayfish, invertebrates, vertebrates, butterflies. and I would view it as a huge asset to the lakefront. When you look at this from the lake, looking back towards the homes right now, it's kind of an atrocity, a bit of a scar. And the idea of both property owners was to naturalize that. They are incorporating trees on the lakeside in front of their house. The tree types will be tulip trees, London plane trees. And there are quite a few existing oaks on the property. So again, the idea is to pull this in up through the bioswale. There'll be black willow, red twig dogwood, butterfly bush, coneflower, and a variety of pollinators. Basically, everyone's looking at it as a pollinator garden. I hope that describes it well enough, but I could go on for hours about this. I get pretty excited about saving the environment. So I'd rather you ask questions if you have any, and maybe I could answer them. The drawing up now shows the concept of these rain gardens. So these rain gardens are little micro gardens that handle this surface runoff. Can also be incorporated into the leaders off of the house, the downspout leaders. These gardens will take that first flush, they'll allow infiltration down. In the event of a large storm event, obviously you'll have overflow, which would be put into the main swale. But the sizing of this event, and again, Aaron's working on it, the idea is to take that storm water, put it into the rain garden, allow it to infiltrate back into the swale, and really create an ecological benefit to the community. We're also incorporating weirs, and some people don't know what weirs are. Weirs are actually, these are designed to slow the velocity. People often say they look a little strange, they point upstream. Why is that? The reason they point upstream is they deflect, and they deflect on the outward. They take the energy out of the stream so you don't get erosion. So you'll see this south to north shifting, and that's really to take energy out. They also help drop pollutants. Those pollutants will backswale back into the weir, and those are for the storm events. This channel runs in the summer, no water at all. So it is a seasonal, but again, we're sizing it for large storm events to contain that and help protect the lake. I guess that's it. I would love to take questions, or I hope I answered a lot of questions.
Hey, this is Bob. I was out there today looking at both these properties, and you answered all my questions. I know that a lot of those trees are going to come down on this property. I noticed they're all marked, obvious reasons, but I did note a lot of concrete corrosion or erosion on the walls on the lakeside. Is there going to be any addressing the lakeside retaining walls, things like that? Because it's they're pretty much falling apart now.
Yeah, the lake. Oh, I'm sorry, Aaron. Would you like to answer to that?
No, you can go ahead.
Okay. The lakefront walls that exist now, under the jurisdiction of the DEC, you have a one-time that you can fix those, and you're allowed 1 foot. So looking at those walls, part of the strategy will be at some point to get a DEC permit for those walls to be resurfaced and to stop that undermining of the walls. The reason the walls are left there, the way that this point sticks out into the lake, in particular where that stream channel comes out, one of the reasons we were leaving it channelized on that last part is you will get tremendous erosion on that point from south and north. So to answer your question, it is yes, and that will be through the DEC for that refacing, and it would be allowed to be 1 foot into the lake.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the board? Gary, Amanda?
A permit will be required for the town for the DEC refacing too.
Yes, correct.
Okay. No, I'm saying yes, a permit will be required.
Chris, you were talking about the frontage, the lake frontage?
Yeah, depending on how they're doing it and stuff, and
Yeah.
whether it increases the structure size, whether they're doing it one time over the life of it. The town does document it and file it with the property, so it is that one time over the lifetime of the property.
Aaron, where are you in the process with the DEC regarding the stream bed encroachment improvement?
Right. So we should be submitting to the DEC and coordinating with them. I wanted to kind of get a sense for I didn't want to, I guess, submit and then have some significant comments from MRB, which we received last week, or from this meeting to substantially change what we had submitted to the DEC. So we will be planning to submit to them in the next week or so to start that process, but we will be, coordinating on that joint application permit for the work in the stream.
I guess the concern would be if the DEC says you have to cut back the banks and they change the cross-section or profile of the stream and you have an approval from us to do something that's in conformance with the something that they are asking to be revised. I'm very concerned about the stream. I'm putting on my drainage committee hat right now because we have had problems up with the road crossing at County Route 16. A lot of that has to do with the maintenance of the culverts by the county, and I think they're trying to address that. But then as that stream traverses down through the properties coming down toward the lake, there's a lot of overgrown brush. There's a lot of restrictions in the stream. That's contributed to the problems that they're having back on County Route 16. And then we reach your property line or these two property lines. And we just want to make sure that from this point forward, that there was a hydraulic study done to ensure we all know what the amount of water that's coming down through there. And then that the hydraulic study itself shows what type of cross-section is required to make sure that water can then be carried out to the lake. And I guess, the other concern is that that culvert between the outfall of the stream or the inflow of the stream into the culvert going out to the lake, making sure that's sized properly. Have you done any initial studies as to the box culvert and its size?
Yeah, so I can kind of speak to that across a couple different aspects of what we've been looking at. So we did look at, we looked at the contributing area to that stream, and we looked at what the existing capacity was and the proposed capacity and the existing culvert situation that's there. And you're right, there are different areas where that stream is culverted versus open. And so if you start at the lake, kind of working back, there's the section that's the box culvert, and then you have kind of the dilapidated open piecemeal channel. And then when you get to Westlake Boulevard, there's a couple of existing culverts there, and then it's open again. So when you're looking at, or when we're looking at these, and this sort of thing happens all around the lake, you have a design storm, which is typically the 25-year design storm for looking at the sizing of this. You look at what's upstream, what planned improvements there might be for increasing capacity upstream, but then you also have to look at your threshold for your threshold for what happens during these massive gully buster storms where you get a ton of water, more than what the design capacity is, and you do have kind of a backup in the system. Where can this water pool? Where does it expand upon? So those are the kinds of analyses that we've done, and those are the kinds of analyses that we'll share with the DEC when we're reviewing this application. So we are looking at all of this. I think the improvements that we're making are certainly increasing the capacity of that area. I think we're trying to balance it with not creating too much capacity where we're having this sudden bottleneck right when you get to the lake, but trying to kind of slow down the water, give it a little bit more water, give it a little bit more space to pool, and help to increase protection from erosion. And I mean, you're going to have storms in our lakefront area that are just going to exceed the capacity of what the design is. You kind of have to balance it out. So I don't know if that answers your question at all.
Well, certainly, the concern is we don't have a backwater condition with the water being backed up due to an undersized stream improvement. And certainly seen yourself, MRB and the DEC, hopefully they'll ensure that the stream has adequate hydraulic capacity. And then the other thing would be making sure that what the DEC ultimately requires doesn't in some way infringe upon what you're submitting tonight for the plan, because on the, well, I know we're not talking Reinhardt yet, but on the Reinhardt side, that home is fairly close to the top of the bank of the stream. So, and I guess it comes down to, and Lance, you can chime in. Is it the kind of thing this board should look at as far as a condition that the DEC approve it and that you approve it, and if for any reason, as a result of those approvals, that the site plan has to change, they would have to come back to us and get an amended site plan?
So I will answer this as carefully as I can, and then I'm sure Chris Nadler will yell at me, and then he'll tell you the truth. So my opinion is yes, I think a condition on getting an approval from DEC regarding the improvements in that drainage way would be a condition that you guys would want to have, something that validates these improvements are following the DEC guidelines and requirements. MRB's letter, and we've been working with Venenzi before, they'll provide the calculations justifying the sizing and the accuracy of what's going into there. That'll be part of our approval, which is a condition already as part of the site plan itself. Assuming that DEC comes back and says, hey guys, we need this to be modified in a way, well, that changes the plan. That plan then comes back to the town, probably at one of our PRC meetings, to which point the town would then decide whether or not, if that substantial change or not, requires it to come back to the planning board. That's my understanding of the process. And Nadler can tell me if I'm wrong.
No, I'm pretty good with that. Is the condition before signatures?
Yeah, I would think that you guys would want, I mean, that's up to the board, but I would think the condition would be DEC approval prior to receiving signatures on the plan.
Oh, yeah, I'd
and
want that in hand.
And then I think Chuck, with the advice of the development department and the town engineer, can make that determination whether any changes that need to be made are significant and sign the plan as he sees fit. If he's not comfortable signing the plan, then it gets sent back to the planning board. Chuck,
this is Jim Fahey. Can I chime in for a second?
Sure.
I just want to make sure the time frame for the construction of this, we were hoping to get through this approval this evening to meet a construction schedule that our clients want to meet. I'm concerned that if your final signatures on this site plan from a planning board standpoint is an approval from the DEC, this is going to put our schedule well back from what we're hoping to move through. This improvement, I think, as Aaron and Dan have discussed, this is a major improvement over what is there today. And I think we have a high degree of confidence, and I think we're showing that to the board, that there's going to be a solution agreed upon with the DEC. Can we follow this through with a condition of an approved stream restoration or reworking by the DEC prior to providing a C of O on this project, just like you do with, I just had a project approved down the road where there was a staged septic system that it was agreed upon. It wasn't finalized yet, but it was agreed upon that before a C of O for the project would be provided, that stream or that septic system would have to be approved by the county health department.
Could I jump in for a second, Jim? Just in board, please, to piggyback on that. The DEC, in theory, we're speculating. Right now we have a current condition, which we have this channelized swale. What we're looking at doing is an improvement on it. The DEC could come back and say, geez, you can leave it as a channelized swale if you want to. and that's not the case. So I think what Jim's asking for is if we had a conditional approval on whatever is done in that culvert or that swale, stream, whatever you'd like to call it, obviously needs to be approved by the DEC. And if the board could condition the improvement or condition the site plan based on that there's DEC approval for handling of this swale. So then we have this two task sort of, they can begin construction. Aaron can work with the DEC, as can I. We want to improve this to be something much better than it is. And obviously that needs to go through that DEC action. But again, the DEC could come back and say, we don't want you to act on it. Now, I doubt that because they're obviously into restoration. The current profile that's cut on the swale is about 5 times the capacity of what exists. And that's a rough number. That'll be figured into Aaron's final calcs, but that will all go through the DEC, and it'll be shared with the municipality, obviously. But we kind of have a two branch tree here. And I think that's what Jim was alluding to.
Well, absolutely. And I mean, there's no question that what we're doing here is a major improvement of what is there now. But the DEC works on their own schedule. And they could look at something and be sitting on somebody's desk for 2 or 3 months. We've worked diligently on all aspects of this, from the architectural side to the site planning side to the landscape architectural side. What Erin has said, she's done a number of calculations and in this design. This is going to be a major improvement. But to hold your approval until DEC approves this stream, this could put the project off till 2022, unfortunately. And we just don't, our client is definitely, this has not been our goal for the project. We've worked too hard to then let this sit in the DEC's lap. So I'm just, hopefully that we can come to some other kind of an agreement here tonight.
Aaron, have you had any sit downs with the DEC, shown them what you had in mind? I know in some cases, a preliminary meeting or a sit down meeting or a pre-application meeting, sometimes you can get some feelings from the DEC, which way they're going on this thing. I mean, fellas, I agree. It's a definite improvement to the landscape out there, literally. But I think we as a board just have to make sure that the new and improved in terms of the aesthetics also meets all of the hydraulic and hydrologic requirements that are needed for that stream.
Could I ask a question?
Can we pull stream improvement away from the project, make it a separate project, and then wait for DEC on that? Because I can't issue a building permit for work on a stream until you get a DEC permit and site development. So you can separate the stream out as a different project and go forward with the houses without it.
That's a great idea, Chris.
Yeah, one of my thoughts was just going to be that both of these projects could complete their construction without touching the stream. So, you know, if we didn't get the DEC permit for some reason and we kept the stream as is, we would be able to construct both projects. We're hoping for that not to be the case. The last time, it was a couple years ago, granted, that I worked on a project that had some stream alterations. And we did do the joint application permit with the DEC. It has a 90-day, if they don't act, it's approved. And we actually ended up, that was our default because they never even looked at us. So I do think that, you know, the DEC process could be a little unknown on the timing. I think to break it up separate and have the stream improvement be potentially its own thing, I think that could maybe help in this situation, because I do think overall it's an aesthetic improvement between the two properties, but we did not take any credit for the stream improvements and any sort of in our stormwater mitigation for the development in itself. So I think you could have the developments exist without the stream. And so I think like breaking them up and would potentially work and be maybe a way around that.
Yeah, I don't have any objection to that either. I think that was where I was thinking we would have to go with this as well, because like you said, Aaron, all your calculations justify that you don't necessarily need the stream improvements to be done to handle the water quality quantity controls that you guys are required to adhere to based on the two improvements. It's obviously an improvement that I think everybody here tonight would argue they want to see happen. I just think procedurally, like Chris mentioned, they just can't issue a permit until DEC weighs in and grants some type of an approval of it. So, Chris, I guess my question then and back to the board would be, if, assuming we move forward tonight and the drainage area is not necessarily included, that process would look like what? A separate plan, similar to the one before you tonight, goes into the town then reviews that plan and then makes a determination whether, what, does it need site plan approval by the planning board, Chris? Or does that handle differently?
I don't know which Chris he's talking to, but I would think, yeah, it would be site plan approval for a separate project. Being said, it's on for site plan approval tonight for this entire project. Who's the applicant? Venezia, Fay, or the owner?
Venezia is the applicant this evening.
Okay, pick one. Venezia needs to request that that be severed from this project, and then we can add as a condition of approval that that's not part of the approval. The stream isn't part of the approval. Anthony, Rocco, Aaron?
If we severed the stream from the application, would we still be able to get a conditional approval on the two homes in front of the board tonight?
I think that's what Chris is saying. That's how we get
That's what
around
it
it.
looks like to me.
Theoretically, yes.
Yeah, I believe that would be the best way to go forward, and then we can work with the DEC as the stream as a separate project during the construction of these two parcels.
Okay, so Anthony, you're requesting that the stream be severed.
From this particular project, from the Reinhardt and the Vesuvius, yes.
Okay.
So can I just, I'm just wondering if we really do need to do that. What if we had a condition on this that just said construction or remediation or whatever the right words are of the stream portion cannot be begun until DEC approval. So therefore, if DEC does come back and it's exactly what we kind of have here, we don't have to go through that process again. We can just say, okay, now you got permission to go work on the stream.
I think
And
that's
if,
where
and if they do come back and DEC has some changes, well, then they just come in with a modified site plan, amended final site plan that just shows the changes that are required to the stream.
That was originally what I was suggesting, Gary. I think that's a clean way to do it. It saves an awful lot of administrative type of things. I mean,
they wouldn't have to go back and change the plan, change this plan and do all that kind of stuff. And I don't know, that's what I'd be okay with that. Just making a condition that no work is to be performed on the stream section until DEC approval, but they can continue with everything else.
Yeah.
Chris and Lance, does that work for you guys procedurally?
That works for me.
Oh, well then let's do that.
Okay.
There you go.
Well, I think, yeah, we were going toward.
Rest
a
of my board
conditional-
members okay with that?
Yeah, I think we were
There,
going
yeah.
in that direction, but we were just hung up as to when that DEC approval had to be made in relation to signing of the plan, building permits, C of O. So we're just saying that if and when they ever want to come back in with the stream, that would be a subsequent.
No, there,
well, it could be the same plan that's being presented this evening.
Okay, so we're leaving the improvements here. Okay,
Yes.
Correct. It'll
Okay,
just be
I'm
the
sorry.
stream. One of the conditions will be we won't work on the stream until the conditional approval. We won't work on the stream until we have the DEC approval, but we can go forward with the building progress of the two homes.
Yeah.
And the plan as presented this evening is the direction that we intend to go,
Right.
barring the DEC provides us with other stipulations. But this is the direction that we're proposing to go.
So assuming the DEC agrees with your plans, then all you get is a DEC approval and off you go.
and off we go.
If he-
Exactly.
Correct.
Very, very easy to
He
move
comes
forward.
back and says, you need to do this and this, and I got, and it affects what we're looking at tonight, then you would just come back with amended site plan for just that section. And then we could, approve, and then we'd have DEC approval at that point in time. So that should be a pretty straightforward, approval of an amended site plan that would conform to what the DEC says you need to do.
Right, exactly.
Okay, I think we've chewed
We
on that
agree.
enough. Any other issues on the site plan itself? I just had a quick question as to the ownership and maintenance of Westlake Boulevard. Is that under some sort of a neighbors agreement or?
Wesley Boulevard is owned by a joint ownership of all of the different individuals that access it. So during the construction process, if there is any damage to the road, the Vesuvius would have to repair any kind of damages.
Already, that's not already there.
It's already
That's
there,
already
yes.
in-
that
that's
was
already
my
in place
question.
as part of the, yeah, it's already part of the agreement from when the land was purchased. So
Anthony,
there is a private agreement in place for that private drive.
Can we,
Okay.
if we're talking about this, can we talk about this now on the Reinhardt house? Because that splits.
So the Reinhardt house.
That's where my concern is on the Reinhardt, right,
So-
is that?
The
yeah,
Reinhardt house is gonna have access from Westlake Road. So
Road.
they will have a long construction.
Yeah,
entrance.
but it goes
It'll
right
actually be-
through, Anthony, it goes right through that property.
Right, it does, but the pavement that is Westlake Boulevard stops to the north of the Vesuvius property. There is no pavement that they cross, so
Right, but it's
they will
owned.
have to
that
cross. Right,
That property is owned by LLC, that LLC.
correct.
So
So then he's an easement. at
that
least.
Reinhardt is gonna go across it with their
Yes.
driveway.
Yes, that
Okay,
is
Do
guys.
they get a variant? Do they get an easement on that?
He is part of the LLC. He is part of that ownership because he does have the land on the lake that was previously accessed by Westlake Boulevard, but when they bought both pieces, both pieces are brought into that agreement, so they do have access across there.
So this goes right to another question that came up because when I went out there today. Of the people that were walking up and down that easement. Are they still able to walk up and down that easement?
Access has to be maintained throughout that easement with the conditions of that agreement. So access has to be stay there. They can't put any fences or anything there. They have to leave access open.
Thank you. That's what I like, their question.
All right, well, let's get back to the application in front of us. I think we have come to some sort of agreement, and let's move on this, and then we can move on to anything different on Reinhardt. Anybody else from the board have any questions? If not, anybody from the audience? I know there was a letter in the file from Mr. Vale, who was a neighbor out on Westlake Road. He was concerned about the drainage, and I think he expressed a lot of the concerns that I had regarding the condition of that stream from this property line up to Westlake Road. And it contributes to some drainage issues that he's had. But other than that, anybody else, anybody in the audience? If not, going once, going twice. Okay, let's move on. Strangely enough, the county planning board had no comments on this application. So that's a first for something along the lake. Jim Fletcher had some concerns about the water service, which I'm sure can be handled. I think we spent enough time talking about the shoreline guidelines. Is everybody comfortable that there's more than adequate protection as far as the viewscape from the lake? And all that being said, I guess we can move on to the resolutions. And let's take Phileas first, and seekers to type 2. And since it is a type 2, and we can take that in concert with the site plan approval, and then I will entertain a motion to that effect.
All right, Gary, I'll make a motion to approve a type 2 seeker designation and a single stage site plan approval for CPN 21-028 at 3439 Westlake Boulevard. With subject to the, how many conditions we now, I know we added at least one, so 8 conditions.
That's what I have.
And the 8th related to the stream, right?
Yeah, can you kind of read what you think you have there for that 8th one?
I like how you worded it like you think you have. All right,
here
so
to
what I
help you.
wrote down was no stream improvements as depicted on the site plans discussed at tonight's meeting. I'll put the date. Are to be permitted to begin until such time that New York State DEC approval has been received and forwarded to the town CEO.
Can I suggest you say a note shall be added to the plan to that effect?
I like that.
Okay.
Okay.
Hang on to that condition. You'll need it again.
That's right.
So is everybody in agreement with the motion and the conditions as listed? You do have the park and rec fee in here. I think that's condition 7, if I can read. Okay, good. And the variances from the ZBA will be noted on the plans.
Right.
And I think we are able to take a vote. All in favor?
I'll take a
Need a
second.
second. Chuck,
need
need
a
a second.
I got the second.
Bob's got the second.
Okay,
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, let's move on to the twin property. And these 2 properties will always be affectionately called the twin properties. I'm sure the neighbors get along, right? All right, so we got the Reinhardts. They are requesting a single stage site plan approval for 3443 Westlake Boulevard. And they also went through the ZBA last week and got their relief from the setback from the creek. So there's the plan.
Just for the record, we're going to be changing the address probably to a County Route 16 address because the driveway is going to be coming off County Route 16.
Okay.
Yeah, I noticed on the plans, they have a County Road 16 address as well, unless that's just that, because it's 2 properties. Is that why they're both there? I guess.
There were
Okay, Dan, do you want to tell us a little bit about the landscape treatments here? On this pro-
Yes, you want to, oh, sorry about that. Anthony put me back on. The landscape treatment for this project is virtually the same. At the lakefront, there'll be new trees incorporated. Again, that's to pull in, crop in. Again, with optimism on the DEC and the approval of the bioswale, create a basically wooded hedgerow with a stream on the north side of the property. There would be screening from the to the property to the south, which I believe is the Lupton parcel. You can see the incorporation of the trees in. The trees were worked around the easements. It's a unique piece of property because it has the sewer easement, and then behind it, it has the gas easement. So the house, again, the positioning, which created to where they needed the variance on setback, was it's very tight with the easements that are on the parcel. The idea of the entry off of Westlake would be to leave that more pastoral, open like it looks like now. The road gently curves in, and then intensify the planting around the structure as shown on the landscape plan, the concept plan you're looking at. And again, the lakefront guidelines, sort of the mission statement was submitted to the board, and I'd be happy to answer any questions of that. The tree species would be similar to the tree species being used next door. And part of that isn't because one guy's using it and the other guy's using it. Those are the trees that will grow well. So again, London plane trees, the red oaks are doing very well there, tulip trees, as part of the strategy to mask down the scale from the lakeside views.
Okay, that outbuilding up there on the lake, is that that's a shed? And I think it's there now, right?
That's actually an existing boathouse.
Okay,
And the boathouse, the client would like to keep that. And I imagine going to use it for storage. It's pretty shallow out there, so you're never gonna get a boat into that boathouse again. As we were talking about with the retaining walls earlier that are out at the lake and resurfacing, that a lot of shale gets driven up on that shoreline, particularly when there's a good south wind. But they are planning on keeping that. And again, part of their strategy on doing that is that it's unique to have one on Canandaigua Lake. There are a handful of them. I think they're quite charming because they add to the lake history. That is part of the history of the lake, that people have these boathouses. So yes, it is a boathouse, not a shed.
okay.
Will it be made any nicer than what it is now?
Hey Al, how are you? It's Dan Hackett from Ted Collins. Yes, the objective is not to leave that an eyesore. I know it looks a little beat up right now from your property, and the idea would be to aesthetically blend that with the architecture of the home. There's also, we're planning on putting some plantings on that south side alley. You can see those in there. And I know that I spoke with your landscape architect working for you, and that you're planning on putting some plantings down there also. I told him we'd be more than happy to work with him. We work in the same office. So, and I think we can make that an agreeable space for, all parties.
Yeah. Chris, you want to put the elevation view up on this house?
Yeah, while he's doing that, this is Gary. What about landscaping on the larger portion that is off of Westlake Road? Is that all just going to be grass to be mowed? Is there going to be any landscaping along the road in terms of tree line drive, or what's going to happen on that parcel?
Yeah, Gary, the concept we're showing is more to leave that as pastoral field the way it is now. I'm sure that they'll have cut lines alongside the driveway. There are quite a few existing trees out in that field, which everyone hasn't been identified. They do swing more to the north. That's why the driveway is coming into the south. But it's really, we weren't looking at lining the driveway with trees and making this big statement to the home. It was more of a pastoral landscape kind of look going back to the home at the lake.
Okay, thanks to the elevations, I saw those. Hopefully the other board members have looked at them, and nice looking home. Hopefully it's a facade, again, that's sort of neutral or natural in color. It's got the stone at the bottom. Just trying to visualize the trees in front of the windows, and yeah, okay, I got the drift. Aaron, again, all the downspouts are going underground.
Yep, so it's a very similar strategy in that the home site development area has several underground infiltration pipes that all of the downspouts will be routed to them, and they will be allowed to infiltrate before they're allowed to overflow. So they'll all be picked up and infiltrated.
Are you using a surge pit if it would be surcharged?
Yep, so what we typically propose is a sort of dry well structure that the infiltration pipes connect to. So hydraulically, when that system's capacity is exceeded, the dry well has an open grate similar to a catch basin, and the water would essentially bubble up out of that. So it's a very low velocity outlet when that system's capacity is exceeded.
And it's set back far enough from the lake, the dry well, that it's not a direct flow into the lake.
Yep, it'll flow overland and probably be quite unnoticeable that it's even happening.
Okay. Board, any other questions?
Nope.
Nope.
No, I just want to thank Aaron for explaining everything that's going on there. I think they've done I really like the idea that the two property owners are working together. And I think when these two properties are built out, I think it's gonna be tremendous. And it's gonna add value to this area, and it's gonna be a welcome addition to this neighborhood.
I agree. For the record, there are no docks included with this, nor should there be. That's the purview of the code enforcement officer. So there's the question didn't come up if there were going to be docks put in. And if there is, that's between the applicants and Chris Jensen. All right. Well, I think.
Chuck, it's Al Upton. I have a public comment if I can.
Oh, sure.
So I do want to applaud the architects, the owners. I think they've done, as the other gentleman just said, I think they've done a great job of laying things out and of working together and coming up with, a really creative plan and keeping the open space and some of those types of things. So I definitely applaud that. I did want to make 2 requests related to this property, and I don't know if they can be considered or not, but we share a large pin oak that was planted by the 2 previous owners. It sits right on the property line, right down next to that lakefront structure. And so, along with shoreline guidelines, that was one of the things that we had indicated we were keeping when we were building our home. And it's not shown one way or the other on the plan. So I don't really have a sense for what is happening with that tree. It's right at let me think about this, the southwest corner of that outbuilding. So I don't know if you can tell on that drawing or on that view.
Okay.
So that was one request. And I did talk to Jerry a little bit about the, non-conforming structure that's on the waterfront. That sits right in both of our view shed. And, our request is that the nonconformity of that is not increased. And so it's got a rubber roof on it that's in disrepair. And what we really wouldn't want to see is, that turning into a party deck or something like that, again, does not comply with the shoreline guidelines and goes against, all of the code that's been put in place around lakefront structures. So again, I appreciate that they're going to want to use that and use it as a building, and Jerry's indicated they're going to clean it up and make it look nice. So I think that's great. I just want to be careful we don't increase the nonconformity of it and end up trying to turn it into a something that it isn't.
Okay.
So I can comment on the boathouse. Since it is a boathouse, it has to continue to provide lake access, so a floor couldn't be put in it. And lakeside boathouses don't permit roof structures, railings, or decks upon the top of them. All these items are in the docks and mooring law, which is actually state navigation law, which we aren't permitted to allow variances against. So that being said, I couldn't issue a permit for them to modify it much.
Well, there's a floor in there now, Chris, just to be clear. It's 2 feet above the water. It's got a concrete floor. So it's basically a storage shed, for lack of a better term. It's not really a boathouse.
Chris, we're getting vertigo.
Sorry about that. I was just trying to zoom in on the property to look at that.
Well, in any event, it's non-conforming. If they leave the building the way it is, there's really nothing we can do about it. If they certainly expand the non-conforming use, they'd have to come back to you, Chris, and go through the process that way or change it in any way. So I guess for our discussions tonight, Al, your concerns are duly noted. And I'm sure it sounds like you've already expressed it to the homeowner, so he's certainly aware of it. And hopefully it'll.
Can we ask the applicant about the pin oak and whether they intend to keep that?
Sure. if the applicant's here or if somebody can speak.
Whoever
The
can speak.
intention is yes. I don't know why that wasn't picked up on the survey, and I think that could just be added to the drawing in a note, with a condition if the municipality wants that. There's no intention of cutting that tree down.
Okay, that's what I wanted to hear.
Hey, Alan, Bob, of course, are you happy with the landscaping around that structure now?
Yeah, I mean, I think, as the other gentleman said, our landscape architect and himself, they're kind of working in unison to make sure we come up with something that, again, doesn't block each other's views, but, hides the building, so to speak. So neither one of us kind of notice that it's there. So, I think we're going to work together well from that standpoint.
Very good. Thank you. Just want to make sure.
Okay. Guys, I got to go back to one thing regarding the stream again. I just thought about it, and not to prolong the discussion, but should the DEC either deny or alter the design as shown, Chris, would it require going back to the ZBA for a revision of their approval, since their approval was based on a plan that was provided at the hearing?
I guess we'll make that determination at that time.
Okay.
All
right, just something-
My guess is no, because I think the ZBA variance was for the structure itself, wasn't it?
No, it's for the setback from the stream.
From
Well,
the,
but the ZBA conditions all of its variances on being in exact compliance with the plan submitted.
oh, all right.
All right, well, let's hope it doesn't happen. Let's hope everything goes through. We're relying on Aaron to carry the ball on this.
Yeah.
Get her done. So with all that being said, let's move on to some action here, guys. Anybody else have any questions? Alan, thank you for attending and providing your input. That's great. It was very helpful. And if I hear no other concerns or questions, let's put up the resolutions. And again, we're looking at a type 2 seeker. And again, the county planning board did not respond to our request for comments. We talked about the shoreline guidelines. ECB was okay with this application. Fletcher had some comments again on the water system, so I think we're good. Chris, if we could have the resolutions, we'll keep moving here. Okay, again, I'll take a bundled motion for CPN 21-029.
This is Bob. I'll make that motion. It's a single, to approve a single stage site plan approval for CPN 21029 at 3443 Westlake Boulevard. And also the seeker resolution type 2 with the 7 conditions on the approval site plan. Or no, eight conditions on the approval.
Right, we're gonna add the same one that we did on the other one, right?
Right.
Okay, everybody in agreement? Okay, let's take a vote. All in favor? Do I have a second? I'm sorry.
I'll second, Gary will second it.
Yeah, Gary? Okay, thanks. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Anthony, Aaron, Dan, Jim,
Thank you very much.
et al.
Thank you. Have a nice night.
Hey, could I speak up for a minute?
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Chuck Fasilius. I'm the owner of the sister lot that you guys spoke of.
You've been
And
quiet, Charles.
Yeah, and I just wanted to thank the board very much for your consideration and facilitating us to move forward, and just to assure you guys, we're going to do whatever the DEC requires or whatever, but it's going to be really nice. Thank you guys very much.
As I always say, Chuck, don't tell us, tell our boss.
Okay.
Okay. All right, good luck.
Thank you.
All right, we're down to the housekeeping issues. Let's get an approval on the minutes from April 13th.
I'll make that motion to approve the minutes of April 13th.
Okay, thank you very much. I have a second.
I'll second. Amanda?
Thank you, Amanda. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good job as usual, John. Thank you. We have no referrals tonight from the town board. Well, I'll just leave it at that since the meeting's getting long. Let's see, I guess the only other announcement is the town has hired a new town planner. She will begin June 1st. She's a town resident, Shauna. Gosh, her last name escapes me. She may even be in the meeting tonight. And Shauna, I don't see it listed. But anyway, come June 1st, we'll have a town planner, which would, we appreciate the work Chris has done, but it's always good to have someone who's near and dear to us. I think we have to move on a 90-day extension request from John Salisbury for 4487 Middle Cheshire Road. He's seeking his second 90-day extension. I'll ask my standard operating question: is his reason for the extension? Is it in the resolution? I don't recall.
I see it listed as a first 90 day, but let me
Oh, well,
let me check.
I'm looking at
here.
the old
Am I
agenda.
The
confused?
first expired in April, it says.
Yeah, we're into number 2, I think.
Okay.
But what does the resolution say?
The resolution, the header says the first 90 day. So we would just need to have that.
Yeah, so just so the board know, John is on top of this stuff. As soon as I send it out, he responds back to me telling me all my errors. So I've already made the correction.
Okay.
This is in fact the second 90-day resolution. The expiration date is still the same as reflected on the ones provided to you guys, and the expiration date, the new one, is still correct as well.
Okay.
Lance, since you have it up, the whereas related to the reason for the request, is it specific to anything or just?
It's my understanding of what was provided. Maybe Chris Jensen, maybe you know more. I'm not aware of anything more.
I think it's just a timing thing and getting things all lined up.
Okay, well, he's on to his second, so as long as he's aware of that, fine. Okay, we have a resolution in front of us. I'll make a motion that we adopt it for a second extension for Mr. Salisbury. Do I have a second?
Second for Gary.
Okay, thanks, Gary. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Speaking, I forget which action we took tonight, and there was one preamble or title, and Amanda, you reminded me of it, Lance, that you had, I think, the wrong reference completely. You must have taken it from another. So go back and look through your resolutions just to make sure you have the right titles on.
I will. I'll double check.
Okay.
No problem.
thanks. And like you said, John will pick it up if we don't.
Agreed.
All right. Looking ahead, we have deferred the Emerson Road to May 11th, and we'll be handling that along with Dan and Lori Hoffman for I think it's a garage they want to build out on County Route 16. We also have Craig Palmer for a property at 4157 Wool House, and we'll be looking at a sketch plan for the Wilkins property across the street from the Morel property for 51 single-family homes under a conservation subdivision on 82 plus acres. So that'll be, and we also have Aurora Solar. If you remember, we looked at a sketch plan for that out on County Route 10, and they have filed a duly filed application. So we'd be looking at their site plan also. So that gives us something to do in a couple weeks. So anybody else have anything for the good of the board?
Yeah, can I ask, I know, I think Bob attended and Chuck, you may have too. So I think it was last town board meeting, they approved the 15% increased density for Morel. I was just curious as to what kind of discussion was held? Was there a lot of discussion? Was our, the fact that we had opposed that, was that even brought up or acknowledged? And what happened? Can you give us a sense of that?
Yeah, I was there, Gary, and mainly to hear all that. There was no discussion on the planning board or what we said about it. But I will tell you, personally, I was truly impressed with their presentation on how they answered everybody's questions on the neighbors. All their situations where have been solved, pretty much 99%. But yeah, to the point where the town board, multiple members, the neighbors actually called him out and said that, we thanked him for what he was doing.
Wow.
It was,
okay.
I made a lot of notes, about that. But they did give him the 15% increased. And he did say that if he didn't get the proposal basically as it was going to be stated with the increase, that they would refer back to 80 homes at 1.25 acres, which would back all the houses up to the other houses, all the other properties, and zero conservation areas.
Well, the other thing was they did consider I think the primary planning board objection was I guess you'd say management of the park area.
Yeah.
Yes, that was talked about a lot and how that was going to be handled.
The town board seemed okay with the way it's going to be done. I purposely didn't, because I represent the town board and the planning board, I left myself out of that discussion. But they had a discussion about it and seemed to be comfortable with it. It's something we can really talk about more when the plan comes to you for approval.
Yeah.
Chris pointed out at the last meeting, there is some planning board discretion. It came to you for comment, not for approval the last time. So you didn't get,
right.
And I think what you just sort of said this, but you didn't get the presentation that the town board did. Jeff Morel blew it out of the water.
Yeah.
And I think it may change, or at least justify a change in your opinion to some extent.
Yeah, Gary, as a matter of fact, your comment that you made about the houses close to the road at Bristol, they removed those houses.
Oh, nice.
Then they removed 1 or 2 units away from the other access point. So they listened to what you said, and they've definitely taken those houses out of the backyards of those other people and put berms up and changed the path of the walk area that it wouldn't go in behind the bed and breakfast.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right.
That's quite a bit of discussion. It was pretty good.
Well, I do have to admit, I think Jeff Morel, at least even with the 2 meetings he was with us, seems, at least from my experience, to be a little more accommodating and wanting to please us than he has been in the past. So that's good. All right. Well, thanks. I had kind of meant to listen in on that, and then all of a sudden it was the next day and I forgot all about it. So
it was good.
And we can and should when it comes to you for approval, discuss some real stringent requirements for their homeowners association documents and their deed restrictions saying if you own here, you're going to own this park.
Yeah.
And maybe some sureties. I don't know, but we should discuss that in really long depth.
Yeah. Chris, didn't he explain also that it's a state approval at that level?
So no, I think Terry Finelli raised that point. It's not going to be a park. Because if a town makes something a park, it can never not be a park.
No, I think what he said is the HOA, because at the level they were at was state approved.
Correct. Any HOA,
Any HOA has to be state approved, yeah.
it's gonna be planning board attorney approved, and
Okay.
then the state attorney general. He, that this one in particular is gonna be reviewed. They're all reviewed, but,
Okay. All right, thanks.
but yeah, it's a good point, and, you know, we're gonna make them add some things that I think can alleviate some of your concerns.
Yeah, and it was through the persuasiveness of Gary and Ryan that I sort of went along with you fellows as far as not recommending that the 15% be granted. And it was related totally to the open space and how it would be owned and maintained because, as you mentioned, there was concern of the HOA having to carry the expense of that for the good of the public. It did come up during the town board meeting that I think a lot owner, Arlene in Lakewood Meadows,
Yeah.
mentioned that some of the trails were done away with in her development, and how can we assure this doesn't happen with this project? And Jeff said that Lakewood Meadows was a diminished covenant. I think that's what he called it. It's a
Yeah.
different type of HOA
Right.
versus what will occur here, which is a more intensive, more detailed covenant,
Right.
ensuring that there's perpetual maintenance. Now, that doesn't take away the issue that the HOA, the owners of those properties are going to have to maintain property that residents and the public will be traversing. But I think that's, again, like Chris said, it's something we can discuss in detail as we get into the application.
Right.
So
That's
the
not very-
difference is townhouses. So the St. James Parkway HOAs in the Lakewood Meadows subdivision are the major homeowners associations. The single family homes are the minor homeowners associations. And when you're getting townhouses, you're already expecting to pay a pretty hefty HOA fee every month. And they'll be able to see that. But I'll walk you guys through all that when we get it for approval.
And the fact that the town doesn't want the land for any type of open space or park, that makes the whole decision much more difficult because, okay, it's only the HOAs, the only other option. And then we get into the issue of the cost of maintaining it.
Yeah.
Okay, my voice is giving out. So that answer your question, Gary?
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else have anything for the good of the board before we say goodnight? We don't.
How
have
are we
Ryan?
gonna end without Ryan?
Yeah, we'll have to just keep it open.
I'll call him.
Maybe.
Everybody go get their, go
Can
get
we
their
adjourn?
pillows.
I guess maybe as the Ketchum Road resident.
There you
just
go.
in solidarity, Ryan, I'll make a motion to adjourn tonight at 8:48.
All right.
Second.
Very
All right.
good.
Thank you both. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, John. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Lance, and board members. Have a good night.
Have a great night, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.